All right, welcome everybody. It looks like everybody's getting signed in, so we'll give it a second here and make sure everybody's sound is working and everybody gets logged in before we get started here. Think we're good? Is everybody connected? Can we tell? Okay. Well, thanks again for signing in tonight. Again, we're a small team here from Ringling College of Art and Design, and we're really here to talk a little bit about portfolios. We know for many students, if you're thinking and considering to applying to an art and design school, oftentimes the portfolio is the most frustrating and stressful part of the whole application process. So we're here to help maybe clear up some common misconceptions and hopefully make the process a little more easy to navigate. So we'll quickly introduce our team and we'll get started.
My name is Curtis Anderson. I am the Assistant Dean of Admissions for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Nice to meet you. And I'll be running the Q&A or the chat box if you have any questions as our presenters are presenting. Please feel free to fire away.
Hi, I'm Krista Schiller. I'm the Assistant Dean of Admissions, and I'm going to be mostly covering a little bit about the actual process of portfolios and getting resources to build your portfolio.
Hello, I am Destiny. I'm an admissions counselor, and I'm also a recent graduate from an art and design college. And I'm going to be talking to you about portfolios and examples and what can be going inside of them.
All right, thank you. So we'll quickly look at our goals for this session. Basically, what we're going to cover is the recommended preparation for prospective art school applicants. So some things you could be doing and thinking about to prepare for an art and design college. Next, we're going to review components for the artistic portfolios and ways to seek an evaluation. So again, maybe finding some resources. And then really covering the actual requirements and everything for the portfolio. One thing I do want to talk about is different art and design colleges sometimes might have some different programs that they offer, meaning there's things like creative writing, film, business programs within schools, architecture, fashion. And we're not really going to go into some of those special programs. We're more going to talk generally about a visual portfolio for the majority of programs that you'll find at an art and design college. Moving on and looking at curriculum. This is a big question we get from a lot of high school students to ask, like, what courses do I need to take in school, or what courses can I take in school in order to move on to a school like Ringling or an art and design school? I will say for the most part, I don't think you're going to find schools that have prerequisites, meaning there's no specific coursework that you're going to have to take in order to be considered for a college like this or a program. These are some recommended classes that you might find commonly in your school. So you'll see like your foundational classes of art and design might be called your Art 1, Studio Art, Intro to Art. You might find different types of 3D classes that the school offers, like ceramics, sculpture, anything like that. And of course, some schools you're even going to find advanced level courses. They might be AP courses, they might be honors, they might be IB programs, and they're great classes to take advantage of if your school does offer them, especially when you look at some of those credit earning programs like the AP and IB courses. I really think also just the way some of those courses are organized really helps you get into the mindset of kind of how you work in some of those studio environments. So again, you know, your schools might not necessarily offer these programs. That's okay. That doesn't mean you can't get into an art and design college. But by all means, if they do, to build some of those general foundations are great ways to choose some of your coursework recommended in school. Looking on to the requirements. So understanding the portfolio requirements themselves. I always like to preface this by saying the portfolio is not a test. And I think that's how most applicants think about the portfolio. Like you're being tested on, how good you are. And it's really not that. While it is an evaluation of a college to see your potential as a student to succeed in their programs, it's not like we're trying to trick you, or there's not some secret to making a portfolio. And again, it's to see that potential. It's important to know that the portfolio is not necessarily specific to a major. This is another big question that we often see come in. So while the portfolio for certain majors, we might look for certain attributes in a student to know they're going to succeed. It's not to say, and I'm going to use something as an example, animation. A lot of students feel like I need to understand the software programs and I need to have this diverse background in animation and know the software. But that's not necessarily the case. Again, it's the general fundamentals that we're looking for, in the students and in the portfolio. And connecting with colleges. That's something that I really recommend doing. Each college might have their own requirements. They might have their own philosophy about a portfolio. So it's really important to connect with each school to really understand what they're looking for. And then going and actually getting feedback. Next. There are several ways that you might look in receiving feedback from your portfolio. One way, like I just mentioned, connecting with your schools. It's kind of going hand in hand with saying like, this isn't a test. And a lot of schools are very open to working with applicants and providing informal feedback, meaning it's not a test, it's not an interview for the college. And it's just really a way to know if you're on track and understanding what that college might want to see in your portfolio work. So we always recommend doing that. Attending a National Portfolio Day. If you're not familiar with National Portfolio Day, basically it's an event. It's almost like a college fair that travels around the country throughout the fall and early winter. And the representatives from each institution are there for informal feedback on your portfolio work. So chances are you might attend this event and you might get to connect with 3 or 4 colleges that you're interested in that day. And one of the really nice things about attending National Portfolio Days is you tend to hear consistent messages. So the things maybe you should be focusing on in your portfolio and maybe things that you should sort of shy away from in your work. So we have a link to the website here and you can check out coming up pretty soon. You should be able to see the schedule coming up for fall of 2024 for National Portfolio Days. Another great resource is ACAD Online Portfolio Reviews. This is actually a program where you can actually go to the website, you can upload some of your images, and you can submit the schools that you wish to receive feedback on your portfolio work. So you can maybe send your portfolio out to several different schools that you're interested in. Someone from that school will connect with you, and you can arrange, every school kind of has a different method in how they might look at reviews, or whether it's they'll schedule an actual meeting or send emailed feedback. Looking at resources. Other than actually reaching out in person, maybe getting reviews, ways to kind of learn about how to maybe build a stronger portfolio. Of course, going on college tours or college information sessions, something like this that's offered through Zoom to kind of figure out a little bit more about what particular colleges you're interested in are looking for in the portfolio. Again, National Portfolio Day. So on top of actually attending one of the events, that website also provides some information on the actual building of a portfolio and recommendations. Similar with the ACAD website, they also have recommendations for portfolio preparation found on their website. Another great thing is, we talked about possible high school work, and in some cases you might go to a school that really doesn't offer a whole lot in visual arts. So you might consider finding some experiences elsewhere, like summer programs, pre-college programs. Almost every college in the country offers something like this. And they're a great way to get to actually test drive some of these majors, see if you're really fit for something like this. And in some cases, it'll help you really build a strong portfolio. Some of the college programs like Ringlings, you actually earn college credits when you complete the pre-college program. So there's really a lot of benefits to considering a summer program, especially for when you're looking at something really specific like visual arts. And community art programs, local art centers, again, local colleges, things like that, where you might actually find some coursework outside of your high school programs to kind of gain a little extra experience in visual arts. Moving on. So from this point, we're going to talk a little bit more about the mechanics of the portfolio, and we're going to have Destiny talk to you all a little bit about that and show some examples. But before we move on to that, does anybody have any questions? I know we had some things in the chat. Curtis, was there any questions? No.
Yes, there was a question about putting personal and school work into the portfolio.
So
yeah,
I think
personal work and school work can definitely go into a portfolio. Looking into the college that you're going to be applying to is also a great idea, just to make sure that that project kind of fits into what they are also going to be looking for as well, though.
Another question just came in is, does Ringling College offer musical theater majors?
no, we're pretty much visual arts and creative fields. I know art can be a tricky title, and it can mean many different things. But specifically, we don't have, we have a film program, but we don't have music or musical theater specifically.
Let's see, are art portfolios specific to art schools, or can I use them for things like tech colleges?
That could be really different, again, depending on each program. Even sometimes you might apply for an art program at a liberal arts or a state college, and there might be a portfolio portion to be accepted into a specific program. That's really going to vary per each institution. So it's always important to check with each school and know their requirements.
Do the art schools critique our portfolios by our art skill, and how much does that matter?
It's, in some cases, it could depend on the program you come from. In some cases, it can depend on kind of your resources at this point, or sorry, the program you might be looking into. Meaning like, we're not expecting somebody to be totally polished yet. That's part of why you're going to an art and design college. And sometimes you see applicants that come in with more of a skill set background, and sometimes you see applicants that come in with more concept and idea based backgrounds. So again, I think it's case by case. And while it's nice to see some fundamentals, some skills in the artwork, again, it's not, it's potential that we're looking for in those skills.
Two more questions.
Okay, yeah,
So,
let's do two more, and then maybe
Yeah.
we'll move on to the visuals and we'll roll back into questions.
Yeah, because some of these questions are now dipping into what a portfolio looks like, which is
Yeah, I
really
think we'll be covering it.
one question. one of the last two questions, and should a portfolio be digital or physical or both?
Again, it's going to depend on the school. I think majority of schools, when you actually submit it as an applicant, it's going to be digital. For example, at Ringling, we use something called Slide Room. And the easiest way to describe it, it's basically like a photo bucket that you're dragging and dropping files. It's formatted, it takes videos, writing samples, as well as visual work, and it's all formatted for you to put in descriptions, titles, however you wish to explain the work. As far as receiving feedback, if you attend something like National Portfolio Day, you could actually bring a physical portfolio. Some students will show us work on like a tablet or something like that. So there's different ways that you might show it, when you're in person versus how you're going to submit it for your college applications.
Yeah. Okay, last question before we move on is at what age would you suggest a student begin building their portfolio?
Now. I mean, that's actually a good question because in most cases, a portfolio really isn't going to necessarily be a progression of your work. And everybody gets this spark at a different time. There's students who have been drawing and making art since they could hold a pencil, and others who they took that first, elective class in high school, and now they realize like, this is what I need to do. So I think as soon as you have the passion and the drive to do it, just keep making art, but there's no, specific time to really, and as you build and as you grow as an artist, you're going to evolve, and, the past is the past, and you're going to show your best work in your portfolio.
Well, thank you. All right, moving on.
All right. So Destiny is going to talk a little bit about some of the mechanics here involved in the portfolio.
All right. Hello. So a portfolio is your chance to show off your skills, but also your personality and what you're passionate about. All right. So it's going to be a good chance for you to start adding in work that's going to show the fundamentals, such as what you know about color, line, value, perspective, and proportion. Right. Drawings from life and observation are going to be great ways to start showing some of these things, such as interior and exterior drawings, animal studies, human figures, and then even things like still lifes are going to be really good things to have in your portfolio. But you can also be adding in personal work as well, things that are going to be showing story and narrative, emotion, along the lines of your creativity and inspiration and things that you have come up with. Portfolios can also go within the major that you might be applying to, which is why we really encourage that you look up the college that you are looking at, because photography will probably need some photos rather than some of their drawings. So it's really good to check in, and you can even reach out to their admissions department because they might be able to give you some tips, some specifications, and maybe even walk you through that process as well. Oh yeah, Curtis, if you want to flip through. Within your portfolio, sketchbook pages are always really great as well because it's going to be showing who you are as an artist, showing where you're dumping your artistic mind and giving your little thoughts and patterns. So it'll be really nice. Still lifes, again, really great for showing off your values in your line work. Any observational work is great with showing perspective, proportion, and those fundamental abilities. Yeah, human figures, definitely keep those up. Keep up with hands and feet, and you can do it with your own creative thought process as well within it. Interiors and exteriors, if you're creating your own characters, that's a great thing to also have into your portfolio. Putting them on things like character sheets, have them completing an action or in an environment to interact with. Definitely kind of show off if that's an area you want to go for a profession, then you might be able to start putting it into your portfolio. Sculptures are fantastic to also have if you're interested in that fine arts or majors within that as well. So we definitely just different mediums that you're comfortable with, you can start showing off. Taking clear photos of any like physical work that you have, getting all sides as well, will be really good. So the person that's viewing it will be able to see the piece for what it is. It's always nice that when you have conceptual work, oh, I'm sorry, Krista.
I was going to jump in and just say, yeah, concept work, expressive work, and maybe just being playful with mediums, especially people thinking of like studio art programs. Go ahead. And again, I think these are nice ways to just show some different mediums that a student can explore and different solutions into how to show them, like in arranging your pictures, like Destiny mentioned, showing different angles of the pieces, are all great to have in there. Oh, I think Destiny's muted. Okay. I'm sorry. I think we're having volume. I think we lost Destiny's sound. So I'm gonna jump in. Sorry. You can interrupt me if it starts working again. Some examples of photography pieces. So another thing when we talk about some different conceptual work, some different photo work, that's really great is the idea just to be playful again with your camera and thinking of things that are unusual. Maybe you think of some of your photography in more abstract ways, looking at patterns, designs, lighting, or even to tell a story. And also keeping in mind that, again, the work doesn't necessarily have to be specific to the major. So you might be thinking of a graphic design program or a fine arts program, and you might have photography pieces for that portfolio or vice versa. So it's okay, to have things outside of maybe your intended major happening in your portfolio when you have strong work. What other slides? Again, some graphic design examples, another photography example, and thinking about some different ways to show the work. We see a lot of graphic design pieces where you're kind of doing the basic logo or letterhead or something like that, and that's fine. But it's really cool. I like some of these examples that we received for the fact that it's showing some different interpretations of the piece, really how it's looking like on its final product. Those are all ways to kind of even explore it maybe and have some more fun, really thinking about how it's used in the field on some of these projects. And questions. So basically to wrap up, like Destiny, you did a great job, like starting to really talk about how the portfolio is the opportunity for you to, show off who you are and your voice, basically. And you will hear a lot of different rubrics about, what the portfolio should consist of. But ultimately, I really feel like it's going to do two things. It's going to show who you are and what you can do. Some of those things will cross over your interest, your fun side, where your voice really lies, and you really want to show what you're doing well at this point. So that's why it was, I like that Destiny talked about some examples of like sketchbooks and things like that, because, that process work can be really great to include in the portfolio. And sometimes that sketchbook and process work shows some of your strongest pieces. So it's fine to include work like that. Questions?
We had a question in the chat. Should the portfolio be centered around a particular theme?
That's a great question. No, and that gets really confusing. It gets confusing because especially if anyone has taken an AP course or IB, typically you create a centralized theme or idea concept to your body of work. And while a good amount of your work might come from something like that, or a long-term project that you've worked on, by all means, don't limit it to just one idea or theme, because in some cases too, then you might not be showing really all of your strengths or some of your best work when you're too focused on just one idea.
Speaking of ideas, can you talk about, art that may involve like strong, I guess, like statements? Like what's a general rule of thumb when in producing work like that and sharing it with colleges?
I mean, I think it's always great for work to have purpose. Like I had talked about earlier, sometimes students are very skill oriented, they're technical skills, sometimes they're very conceptual. And like we said, everybody's voice is different. So the purpose might be that they're telling stories, that they have political messages, whatever that might be. But we love to see, and there's all different types of artists who produce work for different reasons. So whatever your intent of your work is, I think it's great to indicate that when submitting your portfolios.
And if I may add on to that as well, within Slide Room, at least for Ringling and hopefully for other colleges, it allows you to write your artist statement on the side. When you're creating a piece that has a statement or has that weight or power to it, it can always be good to back it up with how you feel about it or what made you want to create that piece. So that's always a good thing to keep in mind too.
Can the portfolio include videos of like process work, or should it really just contain images of the final piece?
I think it depends. Again, I feel like sometimes, especially with more conceptual, like fine art pieces, sculpture, you might have installation pieces. Sometimes that process work really shows us the development of that piece, the amount of work that's gone into that piece. And sometimes the process work is stronger than the finished product because you just don't have the resources to get there quite yet. So in those cases, you might show some of that process work. But it's not always necessary. And again, I think it's kind of using your best judgment and looking at where the real strengths lie within each project.
We have lots of questions. Okay.
Right.
How can we make our portfolios more unique and stand out?
Am I tackling
Your
this one?
personal work. Sorry, Krista, but your personal work is a great way for it to stand out. Making sure, obviously, that you're still hitting fundamentals like line, value, and color, but just show off just what's going on inside of your head. Those can always just be really creative ways to show just a different story or narrative. Making sure it's not a cliche. Those are great ways to just not stand out.
Yeah.
We've had several questions asking about graphic design specifically. This question is, should you include pictures of potential products along with branding packages, typography, colors, logos, etc.? A broader question is, can you include too much in the portfolio? So I feel like, going back to like what Destiny and Krista were referring to when it comes to not being so major specific, but you could be major specific. So it sounds like, what is it? When it comes to, the portfolio, and it was mentioned in this presentation, but we kind of just look for the foundation, the fundamentals, like we were saying. And it's easier to talk about the fundamentals when it comes to like a figure drawing or a perspective drawing. But, in majors like photography or graphic design, we really like to see how you incorporate design elements into your piece, and that could be portrayed via, Photoshop or Illustrator or photography, and design elements, color, contrast, line, shape, repetition, like those types of small mundane things can be incorporated in so many different ways. And that's how we, when it comes to graphic design, how do you think, because you're going to be a problem solver, so how do you incorporate that in your all the above, your yearbook, your personal branding, an idea you have for an attraction, t-shirts, because they'll teach you the institution, that you decide to choose. Like you're going to school to learn how to execute that. But when it comes to like the graphic design, if you're approaching that major, it's really the concept. Concept is king, and how you go about taking, like I said, the design principles and incorporating your work. So going back to your question, I don't think there can be too much in a portfolio. You want to show that you can think, you want to show that you're a problem solver, you're a storyteller. So hopefully that addresses some of your graphic designy related questions. Next question, should I go with quality over quantity or vice versa in the portfolio?
Quality over quantity is usually the best way to go. A lot of colleges are going to have a good range for you to be able to submit until. I would be putting your best foot forward. Put the works that you feel the most confident in and start with the quality before anything else.
I have a big question that a lot of students typically ask, us as Ringling specifically, but this could, definitely something that a lot of other schools get asked is, can you offer any advice on moving away from anime, otherwise cliche styles?
Yes. I mean, it's finding your own voice. And as some of the examples Destiny talked about, it was coming up with your own character or creature or concept for something like that. Definitely, we always advise not to have fan art in the portfolio, and to really show your own original pieces. So one of the great examples was that parrot, where they actually did just some observational sketches of a parrot and then kind of turned him into this quirky character. So, starting simple, taking things like that and start working with things and people and kind of exemplifying their personalities, I think is a good way to kind of dip into that work.
Piggyback off that question and that response, when it comes to a portfolio for something like animation, is there anything that's too much or you should probably shy away from?
In some cases, well, for animation, don't get wrapped up with the idea of knowing animation software and techniques. I used that as an example earlier. Again, it's a lot more of the fundamentals of the storytelling, of the confident, comfortable drawing you're producing as an artist, not yet the actual animation techniques. And it's the same with character development. If you are going to include some concept art, you definitely want it to be original and not just have like a cool character stuck in the middle of the page, but giving us a little bit more insight into who they are or what the story behind this is.
Let's see here. We have one more question here. I believe we touched on it, but should portfolios include like work in progress, or should we just focus on like the best pieces that we have? Like what's a good ratio?
The best, and be careful. That's when you bring up work in progress, I think that's a good thing to talk about. We see a lot of kind of in progress or process work, and that can be okay, but there's a difference between work being unfinished and unresolved, meaning you might do the sketch of somebody and it kind of fades out in the bottom, or maybe a painting that still needs a little bit more work. But you don't want things that are unresolved of process or work in progress, meaning like, say you're doing a painting of Curtis and he's completely missing his head, like a major focal point. That's something you definitely want to kind of shy away from for your final portfolio work, is that kind of unresolved. Like if it looks kind of awkward and it looks like something that should have attention, doesn't have attention to it yet, don't put it in the portfolio.
Please make sure I have a head when you're painting. So it was mentioned sketchbook pages are good, but I personally make a lot of notes and things like that within my drawings. Is that okay to include as part of the portfolio if I'm going to use the sketchbook?
Yeah, yeah. It's your thought process. As long as it's not overpowering in the sense that there's more writing than your illustrations, it will be good. I would be careful that it's going to be like appropriate. But yeah, notes are really good because again, it's showing your thought process, how you got there, and it might help us look at the illustration that is on your sketchbook page.
Agreed. Yeah.
Um, you guys did such a great job. I'm looking into this little chat, and could you touch on AP, like an AP course? Like is like not just any random AP courses. Would you suggest someone take an AP class? And if so, like, would you suggest like an AP art or art history? Would that be useful?
I mean, you will take in majority of art and design colleges, you will be taking art history, and it's kind of the foundation of everything you're doing in a way. So I would definitely take the AP art history course if you have it available in your school. You can really learn a lot from it. And the AP studio art classes, again, they really get you as an artist in the mindset of creating a body of work with a specific like purpose or idea. So it also kind of leads into the idea of research and process, which sometimes I think it's almost underestimated, excuse me, how much writing and research goes into your work. So I think the AP classes are really good at preparing you for that, for your next steps into college.
There is a question. I someone had asked and I answered it, but I think it'd be good to know when it comes to mediums. Is it good to explore several different mediums or kind of just stick to like what you're good at? Like what is your suggestions on exploring within the portfolio?
Um, oh, sorry, did you want to answer that?
Oh no, I mean, I was just gonna say I would focus on the ones that you feel strongly in. If it is your first time trying watercolor, you probably shouldn't be putting in your first project in watercolor. You really do kind of want to just show off the ones that you're comfortable with. But Krista, if you have something to add on to that.
No, you've got it. And basically, as an artist, you should always be trying something new. You should always be taking yourself out of your comfort zone. So, I mean, you should be exploring new mediums, but when it comes to editing your portfolio, it's not quantity for the sake of quantity. It's again, this is actually my 16th year in admissions, and honestly, some of the best portfolios I've seen come into Ringling have pretty much been from someone's sketchbook. So it's not always the sophistication again, or the level of training or the resources that you have to get your hands on. It's really just kind of what's going on with you as an artist and how you're showing your voice.
Two questions that I will tackle so that my coworkers can take a little bit of a break. Question number one, the do words like bubble letters or something and sticking a bunch of things in a sketchbook like collages work in portfolios? Like we just talked about, a good sketchbook is like it's a beautiful like thing to behold, because it's not necessarily a part of an assignment that you get, and it's a way that you just kind of just get your thoughts out on paper. And so the students who do share those sketchbooks, we encourage them to scan multiple pages of those sketchbooks and put those multiple pages on one document so you can show more work and it take up less space in your portfolio because it's so good. If going back to your question, if that collage work or the bubble letters, if it is, conceptually, like if you're just thinking of something, then you're working it out through the bubble letters or that collage work. Well, I think that would be a great opportunity to show like, some of that process work with the collage work and the bubble letters, and then showing how that came to a final piece, as part of your portfolio. You can show both, in slide room on the same document. And then there's another question for film, how, do I send my mini short films of my work, or do I send one to two or 1 to 3 big pieces, or maybe both? I would definitely say check with the institution, because the different institutions may have different parameters on how they would like to see portfolios for these non like general visual portfolios like we're talking about. And specifically for film, for us at Ringling, everything's being uploaded to Slide Room, all the portfolios, regardless of the program. Some programs have, a requirement of at least 10 pieces, but film has a requirement of at least 5. And one of those 5 has to be a video of the student talking about why they want to study film at Ringling. So Slide Room has the capabilities for you to upload your digital files. If you wanted to show some film work, by all means, like, it's encouraged. I would just be aware of like how big is a big piece, We've seen pieces that upwards of 25 minutes, and we're 3 of 5 or 6 people who look through the portfolios and comb through. But really, we just look for a sense of story. So if you feel like you can get a sense of story, with several short films, maybe you were the director of one film, but you were the cinematographer for another, like, it might be, beneficial to kind of show some of those. What we've seen students do is, as part of the portfolio, is submit a reel. So they uploaded their reel that had a, combination of like a lot of different things they've worked on. It really just depends. If you have writing samples that you want to kind of like show off to, a good rule of thumb I personally recommend students is like you lay out all of your work, and then you would eliminate the things that you're kind of like not, super in love with. And then so you have all the pieces that you like. And then from the pieces that you like, weed out the ones that you love. And that gets a little harder when it comes to the process. But the pieces that you actually have left are the ones that you are really worth sharing. So if that means not doing 3 big film pieces, maybe it's just doing 1 short film and then some other like writing or photography work. I mean, really, it's just, up to you. And definitely, again, reach out to the institutions, because you can do portfolio reviews, with the various art departments. Are there any good summer art programs for low income students? You know, the I would say check with the institution that you're interested in. I mean, I imagine most colleges will offer a pre-college experience for high school students, and those costs could vary depending on the school and how long of the program, different things like that. Here's a question for the panel. Are portfolios treated like resumes, where it is skimmed through to be determined if one is qualified?
I don't know if skim is the word that I would use. Certain colleges will hold it as a requirement, like Ringling, where it's going to be like looked at and analyzed and like gone through one by one. And it will be used as one of the qualifications along with the other things that we look for. Other colleges will use it as an optional thing, and then that's not going to be a determining factor, but it's going to be something that they will also look through. So it really is more, it depends on the college. It really does depend on the college and how they hold their portfolio requirements.
Is practice with replicating art styles other than your own a good thing to include in a portfolio? For example, styles or techniques that were common in certain time periods but aren't necessarily your normal drawing style.
It can be fun to explore that. I mean, you don't want to downright just copy pieces and submit it as your own from that period, but there's nothing wrong with kind of exploring that. A lot of artists do it. It's kind of fun sometimes to kind of reinvent an old style. You take like cheesecake art or, something inspired by Art Nouveau or something. And I think that can be fine to practice.
I okay. I think that's it.
I think there was one about should your work be put in portfolios? Should it be recent? I would say that you definitely want to have within the like a year and a half range of your work. Because the artist that you were 3 years ago is not going to be the artist that you are today. So you definitely want to be looking at how your skills and those techniques and even your artistic voice have changed over time. So recent work is usually going to be better to be showing off who you are today.
Okay, so I mean, as we're wrapping up, we want to first thank you for joining us for this little chat. Want to definitely encourage you all to reach out to the institutions that you might be interested in and to get a little more detail about their portfolio requirements. Certainly, you would love to chat with all of you if you would want to talk about Ringling specifically. We will be in Orlando and to just come and say hi to Krista and I. We will follow up with an email to anyone who registered for the seminars to bridge the gap, to start the conversation. Yeah, my name is Curtis, and I'm really thankful that you guys all joined on to have this conversation with us.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time tonight. And again, we're always happy to set up a Zoom meeting, whether it's just to talk about the portfolio or for an informal review if you're interested in Ringling. Thank you, and I hope to see you all at FBLA.